Welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator and another video. It's been a while since I was able to record. This is due to a couple of reasons. One, I had to reinstall the sim and Windows due to some CTDs that I experienced with NVIDIA driver version, and I wasn't able to recover from that. In fact, I was not even able to log into Windows for some reason. So I had to format my hard drive, reinstall Windows, reinstall the sim, install all my add-ons, and in the process I lost my recording settings, I lost my controller settings because I'm using an external program to map my controller. It's not saved in the sim and I wasn't able to back anything up, so it took a while to get back up to this point and be up and running again. And unfortunately I didn't have enough time to deal with that in one go. I had to do this on multiple different occasions, so that's one of the reasons. Two, I switched my setup from a desk setup to a sim cockpit. That took a while for me to receive everything I needed and connect everything, do the cable management, etc, etc. Plus there were not many changes in the sim that triggered a video. If you have been following the channel, you probably know that I don't like to record a flight from A to B. I am looking for topics to share and maybe talk about, so that's one of the reasons I wasn't able to record as well. But all of this combined, it took a while for me to get back to recording. Anyway, today we are back with the AMD 737. We are currently parked at Glasgow in the UK, and our destination is Manchester. Today's video will be about Flight Sim First Officer. You have seen a video of Flight Sim First Officer, which is a virtual pilot or virtual co-pilot or first officer add-on that I have recorded a video on the channel before. But Flight Sim First Officer has a new version called version 5. This is currently only available for PMDG 737 or Phoenix A320, but this is a more advanced version of the first officer or virtual first officer software than the one I shared maybe a year ago. The reason I'm recording this is because there are some mainstream software that gives you a virtual first officer, but in my opinion, Flight Sim First Officer differentiates itself from the crowd by providing options to customize your flows and customize your checklists based on your virtual airline, based on an airline checklist that you'd like to follow, or a checklist that you want to follow in general. And that's, I think, a really good option to have, where you are able to change or manipulate or edit your flows so that your co-pilot does the things only you want him to do, not just a set of things that are given to you by the developer of the software. Anyway, I think that's enough talking. Let's jump into the cockpit. Let's take a look at the interface. Let's talk about a couple options that it gives you. I'm not gonna dive into the details a whole lot, but I will link a video of the developer if you are interested in seeing what Flight Sim First Officer can do and how you can customize the options. But we will talk a couple of those today, and we'll try to power the aircraft with the help of our virtual first officer and push back, taxi, take off, and maybe we will finish the flight, maybe we will not. It depends on how long the video will take, and I might record a second part just for descent, landing, approach, that kind of thing. Anyway, let's jump into the cockpit and let's talk about the Flight Sim First Officer interface first, and then let's power the aircraft after we are done talking about the interface and what Flight Sim First Officer version 5 brings to the table. Here we are in the cockpit of PMDG 737. Everything is cold and dark, and we'll talk about the interface first. But let me make sure our parking brakes are set. No, so let's do that first. There we go. All right. First thing, we'll go and get our flight plan from SimBrief. This is required for the FMC to recognize the CPDLC or simulated CPDLC to load our flight plan. Let's bring up the Flight Sim First Officer window here. So very simple window. You probably can hopefully see my cursor. Let me make sure you can. It looks like you should be able to, but this top menu or the top buttons are connecting to the sim, pausing the Flight Sim First Officer, enabling voice recognition. I think this is just shrinking the window for a compact window, and then close and minimize. We have the home tab where you have your flows and checklists. You also have some options like the weather information, the runway information, load sheet, requesting those, flight progress report, the flight operations submenu. This is a built-in function. If you are not using any passenger simulation or like GSX, you can use this to simulate boarding the passengers and etc. And it has also the pushback controls here, where you can push your aircraft back with the use of these buttons here, which we will not do today. Plan page is obviously your SimBrief flight plan that it can download. It already downloaded, but you can click go if you made changes and download it once more. It gives you everything you need in terms of fuel, distance, flight or cruising level. That kind of information should be matching your flight plan from SimBrief. I'm gonna check one thing in my flight plan to ensure that I have the correct airframe selected. Yes, we do. Okay, no need to change anything here. One thing you need to fill here is the V speeds and the temperature after you calculate your performance using the EFB. This is used by our first officer to enter these into the FMC to program the FMC for performance calculations, as well as setting up our MCP. Is gonna need the initial altitude. Let's say we are going to climb to 11,000 initially. I haven't checked the SID, but let's see if we have any restrictions. Actually, we have a 6,000 initial climb restriction, so we'll just set it to 6,000 first. Then the Copilot will set our MCP to 6,000. We will enter these numbers when we have the information, when we calculate the performance. Checklist, this is the actions, what Copilot will be doing and what your actions are based on your flows. This will display your OFP and gives you the information you need. And then the setup window is just the options of Flight Sim First Officer. Let's take a look at those two. So under the options, you have your audio output selection. I am using a different one just to be able to record the audio from Flight Sim First Officer on a separate channel, but you can select whatever output you'd like here. It also has RAS, Runway Advisory Awareness System, where it will tell you which runway you are approaching once you are taxiing or on the landing pad. Joystick options, push to talk, self-explanatory. This button I use to activate push to talk with voice recognition. The action button is the button that you click if you don't want to use voice recognition to, respond to your Copilot. Couple things to note here. As you see, you have some options like when you're expecting your acceleration altitude, when to turn off the landing lights, and if you hover over, it will give you the details. I'm pretty sure this is not going to record it, but hovering over will say, if set to a value higher than 0, the Copilot will engage the aircraft vertical navigation mode at this altitude. So mine is set to 3,000. At 3,000 feet above ground level, our Copilot is expected to activate VNAV. About 1,000 above the ground, he is expected to activate LNAV. He's going to engage autopilot at 5,000 feet, which means we are going to fly by hand up to 5,000 feet. And this is for landing. Auto throttle disconnect at 450 feet. He will disconnect the autopilot and auto throttle. Gear extension is set to 0 because I want to be able to extend the landing gear myself, but he's still going to retract the landing gear after takeoff. You have some other options here. If you would like to hear cabin messages or rudder flight control test, you would like to test the rudders as well. Some other things that you can look if you end up purchasing this software. Some other operations, I have GSX, so I enabled GSX integration, but we are not going to use catering or fuel in this flight, which you have the option to call for those services using your flight sim first officer if you want to. Advanced options, we are not going to dive into the details of this, but the developer has a very nice video explaining all of this in his channel, which I will link in the description field of this video. And some graphical user interface options here. Anyway, so that's the options in a nutshell, but we are going to use our Copilot to start the aircraft. The way I set it up is we are going to program the FMC for flight, and he is going to program the performance, or he's going to enter the performance calculation into the FMC once we enter that data into the plan page when we have our V speeds and the temperature. One thing to note, takeoff flaps, you gotta change this based on your flap setting. This will change once we connect and it detects PMDG. So right now it's not detecting because of not connected to the sim. But if I click this button, it will connect, and on the home page you'll see PMDG 737. When we go to the plan page, now we have flap options of the PMDG 737. Alright, so while we are here, and because we are going to, under our options, we set to use, I think I forgot to share that part. Here, I believe, no, hold on. I'm just trying to find where it is. There's an option to, I think it was here. There's an option to use whether APU or GPU for powering up the aircraft right here. Power up source is set to APU, so once we initiate the pre-flight flow, our Copilot will start the APU for us. So for you guys to see what it does with the pre-flight flow, I'm gonna change a couple things here so that the Copilot will correct those things for me, like the speed brakes or the flaps, and maybe we'll just do the wipers, and you will see the Copilot correcting these before powering the aircraft. Okay, I think we are ready. We'll try the voice activation first and see if that is something we can use to start the pre-flight flow. If not, we can always click the button to start the pre-flight flow as well. I will keep the main window here for you guys to see, and we will get started. Okay, let's try this. I had some problems with voice activation before, so I'm not sure if it's going to work properly, but we will try and we'll see if we can start to do flows with voice activation. So I'm going to hold my push to talk button, pre-flight flow, or maybe we need to start the flows and then maybe voice activation will take over for our responses. I don't know. Can't remember. It's been a while since I used Flight Sim First Officer. So let's click the button for simplicity, and you will hear the Copilot entering the cockpit. He should power the APU, but we'll see. Four seconds for him to enter the cockpit.
Good afternoon, Captain.
Performing safety checks and powering up aircraft. Please stand by.
Correct everything we have changed, putting the flaps and everything back, and he's gonna establish DC power first, close the guard, and he'll do the tests and then power up the APU. So he's gonna turn the dome light on if it's dark outside. He'll set the position lights. Or he will ensure that they are set to steady. I haven't checked my cold and dark setup in PMDG, so I'm not sure if it has changed that, if it's coming as on by default. But he's waiting for the aircraft to energize. The screens will not turn on before we have AC power, but you can also, you are probably seeing the timer here in orange text. We can also hold Control and Alt to override and skip this. So let's do that and let's see what happens. I'm gonna hold Control and Alt. So it's gonna perform the fire tests before powering up the APU. So that's done. He's gonna probably set the lights now. He's gonna test the squib. And he's starting the APU now. As you see, he turned on the forward pump and started the APU. APU should still spool up, and he's gonna wait until we have AC power. Let's wait a minute and see what he does. There you go. APU is spooling. You can also do this with GPU, and he will turn the ground power on once that's done. But I just wanted to show that he can also start the APU if that's your preferred way of powering the aircraft in the sim. In real world, I think GPU is more commonly used than APU because, one, it saves the APU from tear and wear. Two, it's probably much cheaper than running with jet fuel. And three, there are some restrictions like the sound that the APU generates. As you see now, he's establishing APU power to the aircraft. We can set our lights while he's doing other things for us. Panel lights. And
dome lights.
Do
Position
the dome
lights. Attendant call test.
You will see. And these options, you don't normally hear them. I turned.
Takeoff config test.
I turned on the verbose mode for you to hear what he's doing. I usually keep it off, but he's doing the takeoff config test to make sure it's working by pushing the throttles one by one.
Cargo fire SYS test.
He's gonna do the cargo fire test now.
CVR test.
Cockpit voice recorder.
Mach overspeed test.
Mach overspeed test. He's gonna do the light test for us now.
Lights test.
There we go. He's gonna turn the IRS selectors to nav.
IRS selectors. Waiting for next action.
Now we have to go down and set our position initialization. We are at Glasgow. Echo Golf Papa Foxtrot. Kilo. And we are parked at gate 28, I believe. We can grab one of the GPS positions and plug it in here. That
hydraulic pumps.
Take care of. He's gonna turn the
walk
hydraulic
around
pumps on, and he's gonna go for a walk around. At this point, we are now ready to program our route into the FMC. We can request it after. No, we have the information here. Maybe I need to clear this and request it. This is our flight plan. We can set the fuel, set the payload according to our flight plan, and then select and request the route. I like how easy this is now with the EFB implemented to the 737. It is okay to enter it manually, I guess, but I think I like this better. So we will load the route now, and it should bring everything except our departure and arrival. Our co-pilot is doing a virtual workaround. Yep, we have done that. We are departing from runway 23. We can put it in here and activate and execute. So, yep, our waypoints are here. They appear to be correct. We have to select our departure. We are departing from runway 23, and our SID is Norbo 1 Hotel.
Voice detected.
I'm not sure why it keeps saying voice detected. I don't have my push to talk button pressed, but anyway, that's our departure. We'll go back to the index and we'll select our arrival too. If this changes, if you are on a network, we are not using ATC today, so it's not less likely to change, but if this changes, you can update this later, as you probably know. Our arrival is, let me see, Lakey 1 mic. Okay, we arriving on a Lakey 1 mic with no transition directly to the final, and this should generate a discontinuity for the vectors that we need to fly from here to our arrival to runway or our fix. So we can clear this by copying it over.
The gate agent is ready. Are we okay to start boarding?
Okay, let's see if it's gonna work this time. Clear to board. That's what you need to say to start the boarding, but somehow it's again not detecting my voice, and I am at this point not sure if one of these options will help us start the boarding, because I believe these are for the built-in passenger simulation, not for GSX. Clear to board. It's not getting my voice for some reason. I'm not sure if it's my setup. Did I messed up something? I'm not sure. But all good. When this timer you see at the bottom with orange text reaches to 0, it should automatically start the boarding. Looks like our IRS is aligned. That was quick. Clear to board. No, it's not taking it for some reason. I have to contact the developer and see what I'm doing wrong here, because this takes the default audio device settings from Windows and uses those for input. There is no audio device selection as far as I can tell, except the output you see here. These are all outputs. This shouldn't be, yeah, input devices. So I am at this point not sure what is going on here, but we will leave it alone for now, and hopefully when the timer ends it's gonna start boarding the passengers. Our co-pilot is still outside. We can use this opportunity to also go ahead and calculate our performance, because our aircraft initialization is done. We can import this from our OFP. Runway 23 is where we are departing from. We can import the lows from the aircraft. Takeoff flaps will be 5. And we will use this as an optimum. Anti-ice will be off, packs will be on, import the weather, and let's hit calculate. So now all this information we need to enter here. Selected temperature is 33. V1 is 138. V rotate is 138. V2 is 145, and VREF is 147. That's all we needed to do here. Flaps are done. Initial altitude selection, we already finished that, so this should give him the information he needs to program the performance, which we can then cut the walk around short by holding Control and Alt. And
Aircraft looks good.
Load FMC perf.
So he's gonna now load the performance. I wanna show that. So he's gonna go in there. He's gonna bring in the gross weight, reserves according to our flight plan, the cost index, flight level. He's gonna enter the cruise winds. He's gonna enter the transition altitude, which is already in there, but he will do it anyway. And then he will execute. So the performance is in there. He's gonna put the temperature. He's gonna set the flaps. And he's gonna enter the CG and the V speeds.
NAV display mode.
So he's gonna
NAV
change
display range.
nav display and ranges.
Set barometer.
He's gonna set
Set
QNH
barometer
now.
reference. Yaw damper.
He's gonna activate the yaw damper.
Fuel pumps.
He's gonna check
Galley
the fuel
power.
pumps.
Equip cooling.
He's checking
Emmer
that all
exit
these
light.
switches
Voice
are in
detected.
correct positions. He's gonna arm the emergency exit lights.
Passenger signs. Window
Turn on
heat.
the passenger signs. Window heat.
Probe heat. Wing anti-ice. Engine
just checking.
anti-ice.
He's not turning them on yet.
Hydraulic pumps.
He's gonna turn off the electrical pumps because he's done with his
Recirculation
workaround.
fan.
He's gonna turn
Packs.
on the packs because we have APU air now.
Isolation valve.
And he's gonna
Engine
put the isolation
bleeds.
valve into the correct position.
Flight alt press.
He's gonna set the flight pressurization
Landing alt
system,
press.
cruising altitude and landing altitude or landing elevation.
Logo lights.
He's gonna turn the logo lights
Wing
on if it's
lights.
dark outside. And the wing
MCP
lights too.
config.
And he's gonna config the MCP based on the speeds.
Reset fuel flow.
He's gonna reset the fuel flow.
Auto brakes.
He's gonna set the auto brakes to RTO.
Stall warn test.
He's gonna do the stall warning test now.
Passengers boarding started.
Now the passengers are boarding using GSX.
GPWS test.
This is gonna take a long time. Ground proximity warning system test takes a lot of time in the PMGG. But so be it.
Glide slope. Pull up. Wind shear. Wind shear. Wind shear. Terrain. Terrain. Pull up. Airspeed low. Airspeed low. Sink rate. Pull up.
After this, if we have
Terrain. Pull
head-up
up.
display equipped, he is
Don't
gonna
sink.
also
Don't sink.
configure
Too
that,
low.
but we are
Terrain.
not equipped with
low.
head-up
Gear.
display. So
Too low.
heads-up display,
Flaps.
so we are not worried
Too
about
low.
it.
Terrain.
One
Glide
thing
slope.
in our plan
Bank
which we can
angle,
do is
bank
our
angle.
transponder code.
Approaching minimums. Minimums. 2,500. 1,000. 500.
Let me see.
400. 300.
I think it's our
200.
responsibility to enter the correct transponder
100.
code, and then he will ensure the switch is in the right position.
30. 20. 10.
While we are here, we can set the trim
Wind shear.
based on our performance
shear.
calculation.
Wind shear.
Let's see what's
Too
our
low.
trim
Terrain.
setting.
Heads up display.
Yeah, we don't have that. .542 is our trim setting. We are currently
Transponder.
not there yet, so we will set the trim
Copilot
to 5.
FMC.
He's gonna set his own FMC to open and close the doors and
Clear
whatever
cautions.
needed. And the pre-flight flow is done. We are just setting our trim. 542. Let me just get closer just a little bit more. We need to move the trimmer just a little bit more, roughly to the center. I think that's enough.
Voice
Okay,
detected.
so the pre-flight flow is done. I'm not sure why it keeps saying voice detected. Don't ignore that, please. Pre-flight checklist. Still not doing it. Let's see if our action button also, if we can use it. We'll see.
Pre-flight checklist. Oxygen.
It's not taking the action button. Tested. And it's not taking the voice. At this point, I'm not sure what's happening. Let me check the setup real quick.
Hey, Mabel. How are you? I'm doing good.
Well, that's my action button. But pressing that doesn't do anything. Do I need to deactivate? Maybe. No. This is a little bit interesting. I thought this was working like the previous one. I don't know what's happening here. Let me try a different button to see if this will do anything. No. Tested. Checked. Seems like it's not taking my voice. And this is not software related. This is probably my Windows settings. Let me just quickly check my sound settings here to make sure I have the correct microphone. Yes, I do. I don't know.
Hey, Mabel. How are you? I'm doing good.
Try one more thing. I'll just do open microphone. See if that helps. Set this as the mute.
Stand by.
Checked.
Navigation transfer and display switches.
Normal and auto.
Window heat. Pressurization mode selector.
Auto.
Flight instruments.
Set.
Parking brake.
Set. On.
Fuel control switches.
Cut off.
Departure briefing. It will be a left seat takeoff from Echo, Golf, Papa, Foxtrot.
Looks
2,
like it's
Echo,
working now.
Golf, Charlie, Charlie. The reported runway conditions are normal. Taxi route is per ATC instructions. We'll be departing on runway 23, climbing via the departure procedures to an initial altitude of 6,000 feet. Standard reject and emergency procedures apply. Any questions?
I'm good. Pre-flight checklist complete.
Alright. So now we are waiting for the passengers to board, and then we will do the before start flow once the boarding is completed. Alright, I'll cut the video here, bring you guys back when we are ready to do the before start flow. Welcome back, friends. We are almost done with boarding. Last couple passengers and we should be ready to go. Let's jump into the cockpit and wait for boarding to complete. 3 more passengers according to the counter on the flight sim first officer window. Once the boarding is completed, he should close the doors for us. He's gonna disconnect the jetway, which he is doing now. And he should close the doors. I'm not sure if we are required to close the doors. We'll see about that. Let's check here. We can close the doors. Now we can continue with the before start flow, and this time let's try to activate it with voice. Before start flow.
Auxiliary power unit. Fuel pumps.
Gonna set the fuel pumps for us.
Hydraulic pumps.
Hydraulic pumps goes to on.
Packs.
He's gonna turn off the packs.
Recirculation fan. Anti-collision lights.
Gonna turn the beacon lights on.
Ground power.
If we had ground power, he would call disconnected at this point.
Clear caution alarm. Parking brake.
Now it's completed. Well, I'm not sure why we disengaged the parking brake, but let's make sure it's engaged. Alright.
Dear
let's do the
passengers,
before.
this is to inform you the aircraft doors have been closed. In order
we
to
also
push back
have
on time,
these
all
announcements
passengers
from
must
the
be
cabin
seated with
crew
your
as
seatbelts
well.
fastened. All luggage must be stored in an overhead bin or under the seat in front of you. The cabin crew will be passing through to make
We
their
should
final
already
safety checks before pushback. Thank
Requested
you and
pushback
welcome
from
aboard.
TSX. Maybe he'll do it once we finish the before start checklist. Before start checklist. Before start checklist.
Before start checklist. Flight deck door.
Closed and locked.
Fuel 11310 pounds.
Checked.
Passenger signs.
On.
MCP. Speed
Set.
146. Heading 231. Altitude 6000.
Set.
Takeoff speeds. B1 138. BR 138. B2 145.
Checked.
CU pre-flight.
Completed.
Rudder and aileron trim.
3 and 0.
Anti-collision lights.
On.
Packs.
Off.
Before start checklist complete.
As you see, he completed the before start checklist, but he
Voice
failed
detected.
to use kilograms. Even if he selected kilograms, that could be a bug that I can report to the developer. But now we should see the pushback requested by him, but I'm not seeing that happening. Did I select the pushback option? That's something I'm gonna check very quickly. Yeah, the pushback is selected. After the checklist, he should request the pushback.
Hello, Captain. We are
Oh, there
ready
we
for
go.
pushback.
He already did. Maybe there was a delay between these two actions, but now he requested the pushback. He can also start the engines for us once we are pushing back. But let's wait for the pushback crew to do their thing. Stick their heads into the airframe.
Departure checks completed. Bypass pin inserted.
All in all, I think it's great. It has bugs and developer is aware and he is constantly fixing bugs and adding new functions. So if you see something that you didn't like here, it will be probably fixed in the next update. Alright, there's our tug. Now we should get that pushback direction question or what we want to do. We are gonna push the tail to the left and nose to the right. The aircraft is being lifted now. Is this new with GSX? I don't remember seeing this before. Interesting. Let's continue pushback. Alright. Left facing north should be our selection.
Release parking brakes, please.
Release the parking brakes.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will.
Now we can ask our co-pilot to start the engines.
Check for eng start. Waiting for next action. Right eng start switch.
Starting engine 2.
Okay. I'm gonna clear my action button.
Right eng start lever.
It's gonna introduce
Waiting
fuel.
for next action.
So you don't hear this waiting for next action, right engine start lever. Normally I turn them on just to give you guys an idea of what the co-pilot is doing, but it's coming from the verbose option here that the developer coded for blind flight sim users so that they can get some verbal feedback. If you turn this off, you will not hear any of those.
Engine 2 started. Engine 2 cut out.
It's gonna wait for the engine to
Please set
stabilize.
parking brakes.
Set our parking brakes.
Left eng start switch.
Waiting your confirmation for a good
Starting
engine
engine
start.
1.
Start engine 1 now. It's waiting for 20%. And 1 right here, and then he will introduce fuel.
Left eng start lever.
There we go.
Waiting for next action.
He's gonna wait for the engine to spool and complete the start. And then he's gonna tell GSX that we have a good engine start once the engine stabilizes.
Engine 1 started. Engine 1 cut out.
Yes, now we have a good engine start. He should now tell them to disconnect. There is a little bit of delay between these actions. He will eventually tell them to disconnect. I don't know how much delay I set up here, because these things you can change.
All engines
There we go.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start. Please disconnect.
Unlocking gear.
They will disconnect and we can continue with the after start flow. After start flow. After start flow.
Generator switches. Hydraulic pumps. Probe heat.
So it's getting everything ready
Recirculation fan.
for taxi.
Packs. Isolation valve. Auxiliary power unit.
It's going to turn off the APU.
Auxiliary power unit bleed.
Disconnected. Bypass pin removed.
APU bleed.
Engine start switches.
It's going to put them to continuous.
Right is clear.
Wing anti-ice.
Not required.
Engine anti-ice.
Or it's just setting them
Voice
on.
detected. Taxi lights.
Because of the outside temperature we have.
Dome lights.
Put the taxi lights on.
Flaps.
It's going to set our takeoff flaps.
Copilot FMC.
He's going to set his own FMC.
Clock.
He's going to start the clock. And that's it. After start checklist.
After start checklist. Generators.
On.
Probe heat.
Auto.
Isolation valve.
Auto.
Engine start switches.
Continuous.
Recall.
Checked.
Auto brakes.
RTO. Rejected takeoff.
Flight control test.
Now he's gonna do a flight control test. He's gonna bring up the screen. Oh no, that's not that. Checked.
After start checklist complete.
Okay, so now we can do the taxi checklist. Taxi checklist.
Taxi checklist. Brake test.
Do that after moving just a little bit. Charts. No. Oh, okay, brake. Yep. Brakes checked. Checked.
Flaps.
Set.
Trim.
Set.
Taxi checklist complete. Clear on the right.
Clear on the left.
Alright, so what's left is the before takeoff checklist for us to do, and after that we should be good to take off. Let's see here. We have to take we have to take the next right, and controller is acting up. I'm not sure if my joystick's twist axis is going bad, but I started to get this kind of interference. Not sure why, but we should take this right turn towards our departure runway 23. I will complete the taxi and bring you guys back when we are ready to depart. Okay, we are approaching our departure runway, and I think we can do the before takeoff checklist while we are taxiing, or we can leave it to hold short point and complete it there so that I can focus on taxiing until we are there at the runway hold short point. While I was not recording or off screen, the pilot did his welcome message to the passengers. That's also built in, but I wasn't recording, so you guys didn't get to hear what he said, but it was a short welcome message to the passengers. we are approaching our departure runway, which is right in front of us. We'll see if the RAS system will recognize the runway and tell us that we are approaching runway 23. And once we are there, we will hold short and complete the before takeoff checklist.
Approaching runway 23.
Yes, there we go. That should be the hold short point. We'll stop there and complete before takeoff checklist. Let's hold the brakes here. Okay, let's set the parking brake. Now we can continue with the before takeoff checklist.
Before takeoff checklist. Lights.
On. On.
Transponder.
Set.
Before takeoff checklist complete. Cabin crew
That's
prepare
it.
for takeoff.
That's it. So we can disconnect the parking brake and line up on the runway. He armed the auto throttle for us too. Based on our settings, which I probably didn't share, or maybe I did, he's gonna engage the VNAV at 3000. I think I talked about this. He's gonna engage LNAV at 1000 and engage the autopilot at 5000 feet. That's what we are expecting, and we should be able to communicate with him via voice, like to retract the landing gear. So I will probably not speak as much with you guys or to you guys, and we'll focus on getting the co-pilot. And these bad textures that you are seeing, I think it's caused by one application that I'm using to dynamically change the LUT. It's not working great, I guess. There's an aircraft that needed to go around because we are now taking off. This is something I hope they will fix with Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm not sure if they will be able to before the 2024 comes out, but it has been an issue since the beginning. AI traffic not really working great. Anyway, we are ready to go now. Runway 23 is identified. We will hold the brakes here. Then advance the throttles to 40%. Click this virtual toga button here.
Thrust set.
Check.
Off we go.
2,000 feet remaining.
Check.
80 knots.
Check.
V1.
V1.
Alright,
Rotate.
off we go.
Positive rate.
Gear up.
Approaching runway 23.
Gear up. 400 feet.
Heading select.
Heading select on. Acceleration altitude.
Alright, I'm trying to control the aircraft. Co-pilot is doing what he's supposed to be doing. Alright, 3000 feet he should engage the LNAV. Or, I'm sorry, VNAV.
Vertical navigation.
Yep, there
VNAV
we
on.
go. And at 5000 he should activate the autopilot, then we can do the after takeoff checklist. We should bring the nose down. We should take care of the flaps for us. Following the flight director here.
Flaps 1.
1.
you see, all this stuff is happening.
Flaps 1.
Checked.
Flaps up.
Flaps up.
There we go. We're good now. Flaps are cleaned, aircraft is on a good rate of climb, and upon 5,000 feet, passing 5,000 feet, we should see the autopilot engaged by the co-pilot. So this simplifies a lot of things during takeoff, that you don't have to deal with a bunch of
Watch
stuff.
airspeed.
I'm not sure why auto throttle is not keeping us at speed. That's one of the things that I'm not sure. We have auto throttle.
Autopilot.
Command A on.
So we have the autopilot now. And we can focus on the checklist. After takeoff checklist. After takeoff checklist.
After takeoff checklist. Engine start switches.
Off.
Packs.
On.
Auto brakes.
Off.
Landing gear.
Up and off. Up and off. Up.
Flaps.
Up.
After takeoff checklist complete.
Alright, so that's everything for us. I'm not sure why we have a master caution here. But I'm not gonna worry about that. That's not the purpose of the video. As you see, we are holding 6,000. We can change the altitude now to our cruising altitude of 23,000 feet. And the aircraft should keep climbing once we clear the restriction of 6,000. All in all, I think this is great. Passing 10,000, he's gonna turn off the landing lights and other things that we normally do. I don't want to keep you guys here. It's already been a long video. But there you have it, guys. Flight Sim First Officer as a virtual first officer to help you with your flows in PMDG 737. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's been a while and I might be a little bit rusty, so my apologies for anything you didn't like. If you liked the video, please consider giving it a like, and while you are there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It helps a lot, and also helps me get motivated for future videos. Until then, take care of yourself, enjoy flight simulation and flight in general, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.